Hello, everybody. Let me see here. Put these comments up. And Jenna is here. Jenna, you will be meeting Jenna at the rally. She is actually the one who I'll be staying with and everything like that. She's in Pittsburgh. And she's the one that actually told me about you, coincidentally. So tonight's guest is Zsuzsa. She lives in the East Palestine area, and we are having her here to share her story, as I have been doing with many of the residents. Zsuzsa, however, they're all dealing with struggles. However, each and every one, as you guys know, is completely different. So Zsuzsa, thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I encourage everybody to talk more about these things.
Absolutely. So you just said you're in a hotel. Is that because you're still in a hotel because of your house? Wow.
Yeah, it is not by choice. It has not been a vacation, and honestly, I'm so over it. It's been 5 months now. We left the night of the derailment, also not by choice. We got very sick, and yeah, every time I go back into my house, I get sick again, and a lot of other people are experiencing the same thing. It's not everyone, but we've also had agencies like the CDC to say that, yeah, there are genetic components that influence people differently, and we also have test results that show there were hot spots, but ours happens to be one that was definitely affected, and me and my son are absolutely affected, and we are basically going to have to uproot everything on our own buck just to feel safe and not get sick, which is crazy.
Wow.
Super crazy.
So Monday we saw what some people who have no idea what's going on thought was a victory, with who I called DeSwine finally, after 5 months, saying, okay, I'll finally, agree to a state of emergency. And yet here we are 3 days later, and Biden still has not addressed it or signed it. As a resident, I had Chrissy on that night, and she was kind of had mixed feelings. What was your response when you heard that he was finally asking for
it? I also had mixed feelings. I was surprised because he waited to the very end. He's obviously not going to do it at this point. So I was already considering alternatives, what else we could do, because I had been calling all day DeWine's office and the EPA and just trying to get an answer about what DeWine was going to do. And I just figured, he's not going to do it. But then he did. So, and I was like, okay, whoa. I was excited, but I was hesitant for the same reasons. Oops, sorry, my screen just went dark. It usually doesn't do that when I have the camera on. I thought my computer died. I was like, oh no. Anyway, yeah, so I was excited to, though, because I know at the very beginning, DeWine had made in a public statement that Biden had offered aid, and he said, whatever you need, just let me know. And then DeWine's really good with too, because at the time I was obviously still in a hotel, and I was very much not fine. And then Biden had also said that he was going to be coming and did not follow through on that, and has not followed through on that, and it just does not seem like a priority to him. And so, like I said, mixed feelings. I was excited, but then I was just like, I just don't know. They say one thing and then they turn around and do another, and it's a lot emotionally. Honestly, it feels like the whole thing's been a big abusive relationship, almost.
Yeah.
A lot of gaslighting and false hope, false sense of security. They built this permanent clinic in town with these liver pools. city hospital to take care of our unrelated symptoms. Like, it just, none of it makes sense.
Right.
It's really
right.
wild.
And I've heard there are no specialists there.
That was the case. I've since heard, and I haven't confirmed, there are toxicologists there now. However, the CDC, the last public statement, the last public meeting that they had in town, they had mentioned a toxicologist out of Pittsburgh, and I don't know if it's like the same people or what, because it's hard to find information. They just say, like, the doctor or a toxicologist, like, they don't say specifically names or organizations usually. So the last meeting with the CDC, they mentioned this toxicologist in Pittsburgh, but people went to him, and he kind of just listened and wrote things down, but offered the same things our regular doctors have offered, which is just like blood work, regular routine blood work, which is basically, from my understanding, really the only thing you can do at this point. But man, I don't know. It's hard to know, like, who to trust at this point.
I know your son has been dealing with a lot of health issues, and I also wonder about, mentally what these kids are going through to, have to endure this.
Right. It's been really stressful, especially for these kids. Yeah. I think that's definitely an overlooked issue, I guess, either way you can say that. They went through COVID, and the school shut down with COVID. My son did online school, and it was really challenging, especially because the schools weren't prepared and they didn't have a great online program. And surprisingly, when this train derailment happened, we had to kind of like beg them to give us online option, because for a while my son just didn't have any schoolwork. They were just like trying to figure out what to do with us. And the plans that they had used for online school with COVID weren't so effective. And they had to set up a whole new program through another county, and it was like all this craziness. But yeah, my son had to do online again, and it was also not a good program, and also different from the first one with COVID. And he's probably missed a good part of the school year because of that with his education. But not only that, but it's, he doesn't get to see his friends anymore. He had to leave his house. He got sick, and there's a lot to it. And I don't know. It's been traumatizing.
Yeah. What are some of his symptoms?
So he's been fine since we've been staying away. I don't take him back into town, and we're not living in that house. I get sick with symptoms every time I go back, but I don't bring him in. I don't really like the idea of going into town right now, because there's so much dust from where they've been digging, and he has asthma, and breathing in a bunch of toxic dust isn't good for anyone. So that being said, he's fine now, it seems like. But when it first happened, he got very sick the night of the derailment with the smoke coming into his house, and he was vomiting. He couldn't breathe. He was, it was really scary.
Wow.
It was very disorienting too. He had some rashes on his arm a few days later, but they went away. But he gets this rash on his face ever since then, but it's spontaneous. It'll come and go, and hopefully seeing an allergist about it. But so he and I also have a genetic disorder that can cause a lot of sensitivities as well. And it almost seems to have like autoimmune correlations, I guess.
I've heard that from several people.
So I don't know if this is like triggered by. Yeah, because like we're definitely genetically predisposed. Sorry, my brain is just not braining lately. Today's been super crazy.
Yeah, you guys are all.
So that's another thing too. It's like
you're all very active.
Yeah. I spent a lot of time and effort into just the research alone, trying to figure out what these chemicals are. What are their risks now and long term, and then comparing it to the CDC and health department and all these documents from decades of research. And oh man, it's just a big brain cramp trying to talk to all these like researchers and universities and all this jargon that we've just never been familiar with, and all the while being like, hey, I was exposed to this.
Right.
It's like, wow, these are really horrible. So when some of these chemicals have a latency period or cancer latency period of like 40 years. And there's a lot of things we're not going to see right away. Even in the people who are sick or not sick right now. It's just, there's a lot we don't know. And I feel like that's been a common theme with these agencies, because they just don't know how to react to this, or where to go from here, because this thing just doesn't normally happen. Like all these chemical cocktails and just dump on whole communities. Just living through history, it's very much like feeling like you're in the twilight zone, especially when you're talking to some of these agencies and you're like, hey, I saw this in this connection with what you said to us as a community and in your work online, but it conflicts, and they just kind of look at you like a deer in headlights, and they don't know how to explain it either, and it doesn't make sense to them, and they just give you this runaround spiel that just kind of blows you off and disregards what you've said until they find out that we're right, and then the EPA or somebody will start doing something differently, and it's like, well, why couldn't you have done that from the beginning? Why do we have to tell you how to do it? But we're spending day and night just racking every resource that we can possibly get it to trying to find answers and to make sense of it and to figure out what to do or what can we do, and just being thrown into it like that. It's been very challenging to find like a life work balance, but our lives literally depend on it. Like I can't just step aside for the weekend and not worry about.
When Chrissy was on I'm sorry, it keeps lagging. When Chrissy was on Monday night, she said that she had just found out that all the houses on her block are being demolished. Do you know if you're going to be able to eventually go back to your house, or do you know what the status is?
I'm making the choice not to. But I'm kind of stuck also because right now I don't know what to do with my things, and there is a very strong chemical smell in my house, and it does make me sick when I'm in there. So when I bring something out and it has a smell that makes me want to immediately vomit, I feel like I don't know if I should keep it. But I can't afford to replace everything. Norfolk won't replace my furniture or any of our stuff, my son's toys, and that's a lot of money to replace everything on our own cost, because, we shouldn't have to do that. It's just outrageous. But also trying to find another place to rent. I rent. Luckily, I don't own my house. I feel awful for the people who have a mortgage and are stuck. And then Norfolk, they'll offer to help them find a new place, but then it's like, well, then they're not have to pay like rent and mortgage, and no one's going to buy their house, and it's just a whole thing. But for me personally, renting, it's hard to find something comparable in price that's not double the rent right now, and I have pets, and to find a place that has a good school district that's not in the affected area but still close enough to his dad's side of the family, it's been hard. And then just to deal with the frustration of like, why is this happening to us? Like this, my life's been on a standstill for 5 months now, and none of it's my fault, and nobody like seems to give a shit except for like other communities and organizations and people like you, and just to talk about it and be like, hey, there's something going on here. Everything's not fine. It's not like we go back to our houses and we're just nervous or worried for no reason. Like we're getting sick. Babies are getting sick. There's nosebleeds, and all these kids have never had nosebleeds in their lives. And now it's like a regular thing all over town. And it's like, what the fuck? It's just crazy. It feels very like abusive, the neglect that we've been experiencing and the gaslighting that we've been experiencing.
I tried to, yeah, I tried to research what exactly it would do if Biden, actually did sign this state of emergency. I know it would release funds, but have you guys been talked to as per what specifically would be given to you guys? Does that mean you'd receive help from, the National Guard? Like sometimes they come in, or has anyone explained to you guys what that actually would mean?
No, because there's nobody explaining to us about it. Anything involving an emergency or a disaster. We've had to look that up ourselves. We've had to figure that out ourselves. I've spent hours and nights trying to read the Stafford Act, which is, I believe, a federal regulation about emergency declaration. It's like 100 pages long, and
yeah, that's what I found.
It's hard to read. It's like lawyer talk. It's hard, and in some of the things, it's like you're just not really even sure what it means because it's so like vague. But it sounds like what should have happened, and I can't confirm it anywhere that it has happened. But before Governor DeWine had requested a disaster emergency or whatever the phrase is, the state and FEMA were supposed to do a preliminary disaster assessment, which is supposed to figure out what the community needs and what the issues are.
Right.
And I don't think they've done that. But they're supposed to take those needs and then have more meetings once the request for emergency is formally submitted. They're supposed to take the information they found from that PDA, that public disaster assessment, and then move forward with those. But in our situation, it feels like I don't think that they've actually done that, especially because in the letter DeWine had requested to Biden, it specifically said that the needs were still unknown. Well, they shouldn't have been if they did this PDA between the state and FEMA. Yeah. So I don't know what they're going to offer us, but nobody's even talked to us about the possibility of any of these things happening. And I've talked to a lot of different agencies and a couple like senators and things, and it's always a kind of vague of what's going to happen. It really seems like they're going to, what they should do is assess the situation, talk to us actually, because they don't want to talk to us either.
Please.
I mean, there's been a few, like Senator Brown has come into town a few times. I know he's written with J.D. Vance, Senator J.D. Vance, and a few others. They've written letters to Congress on our behalf.
What do you think?
And then,
why do you think they're doing it? Like, I mean, it's good they're doing it, but why do you think they are?
That's a great question. So I think that varies. It depends on who you're talking about, because like I said, Senator Brown and J.D. Vance, they seem to be more concerned about it than some of these other guys that have come in. There's been other politicians that just seem to just show up just for the sake of like saying, hey, look, my face was here. I give a shit. But then nothing happens. Nobody helps us. And anybody that's gotten help so far seems to be like an individual that was like chosen for like some kind of I don't know how they like pick and choose certain business owners. But I don't know. There's certain people given priority that we're not all given priority, and Norfolk reflects this kind of practice with reimbursements. They just pick and choose who and what they're going to reimburse for and when, and they can change it at any point without any reason. And the whole thing's kind of felt like that. Why would they only talk to certain people? And those certain people might not be having any symptoms, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's fine. Like, we're great. Don't worry about it." And we're like, "Hey, it's just wild the amount of health."
Yeah, that's a really good point.
While the rest of the town is dismissing them. Right, and the CDC has admitted that we are experiencing symptoms according to their survey they took, and these symptoms do match these chemicals exposure. So that in itself is like a huge red flag to me. Like, hello, and that's what's so frustrating about all this. There's so many steps where it's just like it seems like the obvious is happening, and never just like, oh no, look, this other person's fine. Well, that doesn't mean that we're not experiencing things.
Right. And
So with
one of
the
the
politicians,
Oh, I'm sorry. There is a lag. One of the things that you said, which I definitely want to stress to people, is you said waiting for reimbursement. So you guys have to shell out the money up front for pretty much everything, right? And then if you're lucky, they send you a reimbursement.
more or less, yeah. But some people they treat it differently. Some people they've given money to up front. Some people they've reimbursed for one thing, the next person they say no, and they all their line is it's a case by case basis. But if they're going to offer somebody, they'll cover certain people's rent to relocate for a few months. Not everyone gets that offer though. Not everyone gets the offer to even move.
Do you think it's
but
the
some will be
people
offered.
who are quiet who are getting the preferential treatment?
No, not at the Norfolk Assistance Center. No, I don't. I think they try to do the opposite. Sometimes, if you're louder, you kind of get more than other people. Like they don't want you to make a scene, so they're like, "Hey, hush, hush, come into this back room. We'll talk. I'll offer you something that the last 7-year-old couple next to me didn't get." And that's wrong. It's super wrong, and I don't understand it. Like I was saying, they'd offer someone a rent for 3 months, and then another person they'll offer them 6 months.
Wow.
It's like, what's the case by case basis logic behind that? I just don't understand.
And then what happens after? Because I know that happened to Chrissy, where they told her, we don't know how long you're going to have this. We'll tell you when we tell you. And then all of a sudden they were like, oh, up and leave. What happens to people then? Are they forced to just go to a hotel? Do they get another place?
That's what we don't know. We've all been asking that since February. We're just on our own, I guess. It's really scary to wake up or go to sleep at night not knowing if you're going to have to live in your car or what's going to happen with everything you've owned and worked for. It's very, very stressful, and it's it's super traumatizing. I don't know how to really put it into words some days because it's just like, holy shit, that actually happened, and this is what we're living in. Why can't I just go back to my life? We're all dealing with enough problems with this economy as is. It's just a terrible time, especially after COVID. People were still recovering from COVID. So it's impacted our town so much more than it would have impacted, somewhere like Manhattan or Miami or something. They would have gotten help right away.
Sure.
Anyway, that's another issue. I don't know. I hope. I just wish they would take it serious. It feels like they're just kind of nah, because Norfolk's coming in and buying out carnivals and taking the band to Disney World.
Wait, is that an exaggeration, or are they taking kids to Disney World?
And they paid for the high school band to go to Disney World or Disneyland, I'm pretty sure, a few months ago.
Why am I surprised?
Yeah, they were also having Norfolk. I don't even know who it was. Yeah, they had a group of Norfolk people go and I guess give the baseball team a bunch of new baseball bats and stuff and equipment, without the parents there. Yeah, they're like, oh, sorry about what we did to your town. It's mind-blowing. It's blatantly obvious that they're just trying to sell people out and shut them up. And I know in a little town like East Palestine, I don't think the salaries are very high, on average in that town. So they see a bunch of shiny new things and they're just like, if you're not having symptoms, and they believe what everyone's saying, that these things are fine and there's nothing to worry about, even though we're the ones who had to ask them to test for dioxin, and they're downplaying it to 1 or 2 chemicals. They'll say vinyl chloride or butyl acrylate. In reality, it was the chemicals in itself. So the fact that they know that synergistic combined effects are significantly worse, yet they're purposely trying to downplay it and act like everything's fine.
Sure.
And like, oh, it just evaporated. Not everything though, and we're just not going to talk about that. So,
right. Absolutely.
I just want people to be heard, and I don't know why everyone's, not everyone. I don't know why people are getting sick, and it's frustrating to have like other residents in town, like and other people in general, like say everything's fine, but they're not. Sorry, my internet's probably laggy.
Yeah, it's a pretty bad connection, but yeah, no, you are so right. I've heard literally every person I've interviewed in East Palestine say that there is such a divide over people who are like, let's get back to normal, and people who are like, this shit's fucked up, let's do something. And I'm curious, were you an activist or organizer before all of this, or did it basically force you to become one?
Yes and no. Not officially. I am a very opinionated person, and I have a lot of thoughts on a lot of society's issue and situations like this. But I never formally did it, and I felt like I've been forced into a more demanding role by necessity. So, and I mean, it's kind of like a blessing in disguise because it has like empowered me to be able to use my voice for things. Like I knew it wasn't right. There was, and this is kind of how Unity Council got started, because there was a lot of us who felt exactly like this, and we're just like, hey, this is some shit here. What are we gonna do about it? And we were all like vocal individually, and then we kind of like started naturally forming small little groups. But then we all realized like, hey, we're working on the same stuff here. Instead of doing double the work, let's join together and make a unified force. And it's been working out pretty well. I mean, we have been pushing for this declaration for a while, a declaration of emergency. So I feel like we are being, we're gonna make them hear us, I guess. And that's
Absolutely.
That's like I was saying about the Norfolk Assistance Center. It feels like the only ones that were getting anything were really just ones who just kept, talking, kept, pushing it, demanding answers, demanding help, because it feels like nobody else is, like, officially, like the politicians and these other agencies, like nobody knows what to do, and Norfolk has a lot of like influence, especially financially. So it just feels like everyone's just afraid and not sure how to handle it. And I feel like there's like corporations that have just way too much power in situations like this, and we definitely need to address that.
Absolutely. And that is where me and my friends come in, because we're all coming in from other states, and we don't blame us for everything. I don't care. I have been telling everyone, you say whatever you want, you do whatever you want, you blame it on us, because you guys have been through the ringer, and that's why we're coming out to do this. This is your rally. This is your mutual aid. We're just the organizers behind it, but we want you guys to have the stage, be able to say whatever you want. We are still raising money to those who are watching. We rented a U-Haul. We're bringing pallets of water and groceries to the rally. So, and then we're bringing pallets of water to Darlington, PA, to the Chais, who I've had on my show a few times. So it's going to be 2 days of Norfolk Southern-ish events. So there's the water drop-off Friday afternoon, candlelight vigil in Pittsburgh Friday night, Saturday rally and mutual aid, and then also later Saturday is a protest in Atlanta outside of Norfolk Southern headquarters. So we're doing a bunch of stuff those 2 days in 2 weeks. So any help that you can give is amazing. I always tell people, even if you can chip in $5, that's a case of water. So anything you can chip in, we want to fill those U-Hauls to the brim. So anything you guys can give, amazing. If you're coming out and you want to bring a case of water, some canned goods, whatever you want to bring, absolutely, let's do this shit. Zsuzsa, thank you so much for coming. I am so excited to meet you and to hear you speak at the rally. Jenna, can you put the link? Did you put the link? You probably put the link. So yes, I am, and I'm so thankful and grateful to everyone at the Unity Council who has been including me in, you know, trying to get updates and everything like that. And you guys have all been so kind to me, and I appreciate it. I've been doing this for 6 years, and it's something in me. I was like, I learned about it, and then I just became like, okay, like every show I do is going to address this in some way. It just like it reinvigorated me after being an activist for so many years. It's so unjust and it's so violent, and I just can't wait to go and stand in solidarity with you guys.
Right on. We appreciate the shit out of you. I mean, this is the energy that I love too, and that's why I'm like, when I said this was like a blessing in disguise, because like meeting other like-minded people, just to see the passion and the compassion, it's really has reinstilled my faith in humanity. It truly has, because there's a lot of shitty groups of individuals that exist controlling a lot of people's lives, but you know, there's more of us than them, so we can do this shit.
Absolutely.
And so thankful to be on the show tonight, and I'm awesome that you're going to do this rally, and I can't wait to be there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zsuzsa. I will see you then. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe. Sorry, the connection was a little bad, guys, but you will get to see Zsuzsa speak at the rally. She is wonderful. God, how many East Palestine residents have I interviewed now? Probably 9, 10. I don't know, but they're all just, when I tell you my life has changed, I'm telling you my life has changed. Like, these people have so little, but they have so much fierceness. And a lot of them didn't know they had this fierceness until this happened. So it's really beautiful and incredible to see, you know, so many people that have come together. And again, if you have a few bucks and you can chip in, if you do donate, please keep in mind there are more than just the East Palestine actions happening that weekend, and we're all in the same Give, Send, Go GoFundMe type account. So if you do donate and you want it to be East Palestine related, please put EP or Water for EP or East Palestine or something in your donation comment, so you can be a direct sponsor of this event. But thank you so much again. You guys are amazing, and I appreciate you. So take care, and I will see you soon.